This is a quick little FYI of what you're about to see. So on TikTok, I like to do basically the same thing that I do here, and that is dispel goth misconceptions. Granted, I do a lot more aggressively on TikTok, but that is because we're comparing the Thunderdome to a TED Talk. So sometimes that comes in the way of a hell no moment, and then other times, like the ones that you're about to see, I do this in the way of stitching with other content creators and to add to their message or offer an answer where it seems like one is needed. A major issue at the moment, and this is a major issue, if you're on TikTok, you've seen it, and it's talked about quite a lot, and that is elder goths bullying baby bats. Essentially goth on goth bullying, but specifically elder goths bullying baby bats. Now, I have been looking for this. I ask people, please tag me in the videos, tag me in the comments when you see it happen. One thing that I do see, and I see a lot of, and I've witnessed a lot of, are a lot of baby bats doing the bullying to everyone. If you know me and you've been with me for a minute, you know exactly how that's going to end. I lead with the kill 'em with kindness foot, and then if that doesn't work, kindness steps out for their lunch break. Why do we do this? Baby bats keep the community alive, and given their age bracket, the baby bats are on TikTok, and what they see will determine who they become, and who they become will affect the subculture, and most importantly, if they find the subculture. When I look at gatekeeping, as it's called out on this platform, versus the way I experienced it when I was coming up in the 90s, they're two drastically different things. And I do get confused when I see it being called out here. Now, I don't doubt that it exists, but I notice that in a lot of cases that it's being called out, it's not actual gatekeeping, and I understand why it's perceived as such. When you're being gatekept, what's happening is somebody is trying to keep vital information from you because they're trying to keep you out of something. For example, the goth subculture, and that's the way that I'd experienced it. So when I was coming up in the subculture, there really wasn't the access to the internet that we have today. So when it came to finding new music, it was very, very hard. To find anything was really hard. And when you were a baby bat, you had not all of the people, but you had some people that really wanted to gatekeep you. So I remember there was this guy, Sean. I think he just crushed on Sean, but Sean. He would gatekeep me in ways where he'd see me in school in the hallway and he'd put headphones on my ears from his Walkman, and it would be an amazing band. And I would hear it, be like, oh my God, this is amazing. What is this? And he'd go, I don't reveal my sources, and walk away. That is gatekeeping. So by Sean deliberately keeping that information from me, he was denying me access to that music and trying to keep me from learning more, therefore gatekeeping me out of the subculture. And it happened in varying other ways. It happened by way of fashion, or if there was a new club that opened up, they would give you like no information so you couldn't find it because they don't want you to be part of it. They don't want you to have it. They don't want you to discover this new band. They don't want you to know where they got those boots from. They don't want you to know where this band is playing. They don't want you to have any of it, and that's their way of keeping you out of the subculture. So when I see people on this platform kind of freely and openly offering up information with regards to the subculture, and it gets met with this kind of aggressive opposition by way of being called a gatekeeper and elitist, I'm just kind of like, wait a minute. This is the exact opposite of gatekeeping. Surely to be gatekept, they'd be like not giving you information and refusing information and like trying to slam the gate in your face and intimidate you in every possible way to keep you out. But they're giving you information, which I would have happily accepted back in the day. So that's why it gets confusing to me, but I understand why it's met with that sort of reaction. Nobody likes being told that they're wrong. It's a horrible feeling because it even though it can be coming from a place of well-meaning, it can still make you feel stupid. And I hate that feeling. And I remember that as a baby bat too. I remember as a baby bat just getting involved. I was so enamored by everything in the subculture. I wanted so badly to be part of it, and I really wanted to be accepted amongst everybody else. And at the same time, I didn't know as much, and I was still learning, so I felt so insecure. And there are those feelings of insecurity. So when people correct you when you're wrong, or somebody tries to give you information, it doesn't matter how well-meaning it might be, it's still gonna feel insulting. It's still gonna somehow, in a roundabout way, feel like they're calling you a poser. I remember that. And there are so many times that I felt so rejected and insulted when in actuality, somebody had just corrected me because I got a band wrong. I thought it was one band, happened to be another, and you want to just like shrink and just crawl into a hole and just stay there. It's not the case. Even though it feels that way, it's really not the case. That being said, that does not mean that there aren't people out there that do not come from a place of well-meaning. So it's important that you learn to kind of spot the difference, if that makes sense, but it's very difficult in the very beginning because it can all kind of feel like it's coming from a place of negativity, but eventually you'll get the hang of it. Baby bats are vital to the community, and we know that in order for this thing to endure, we need baby bats. You're the ones that are going to carry the torch. Without you, the subculture dies. And on those nights we're feeling a little bit sick, we're under the weather, we can't make it out to the club, we need you to go and stand in our damn place so that place doesn't shut down. That's obviously an extreme version of things, but we're a community after all, and we want to help other goths within the subculture find their way. And when there's other people that are out there kind of spreading misinformation regarding the subculture, that is also a way that's going to kill the subculture. So we want to give you the most accurate information, and we want to guide you as best as humanly possible, because the subculture kind of lives and dies with you. And to gatekeep you, that is a surefire way to take the subculture that we love so much and just kill it.
And I can't stand girls who take their heels off when they're in a rave. I'll step on your big toe just to remind you.
This is something that genuinely makes me wonder, because I've seen a lot of these videos on this platform talking about how elders bully baby bats, and the thing is, it makes me wonder if the people doling out all of the bullying, if they're real goths in the first place. And the reason why is any goth worth their salt, we love the subculture. And even if it was just purely for self-seeking purposes, we need baby bats. Because without baby bats, the subculture essentially dies with us, because there's nobody to pass the torch to. Because as these baby bats are coming in, they're learning, they're trying to figure things out. If we don't allow them to come in and you cut them off at the pass and you make them feel unwelcome, they're just gonna, they're gonna go somewhere else. And guess what? That subculture, the very thing that you love so near and dear, it dies. And that is the last thing that we want. It is so counterintuitive to keeping goth alive, which makes me wonder if these are real goths in the first place. That being said, the self-seeking aspect aside, goths don't take kindly to bullying. We ourselves have been the subject of bullying by varying means. Other students at school, peers, we've been bullied by teachers, bullied by faculty, other parents, because when they see a kid that doesn't conform and looks a way that they find unappealing or they find repulsive, they're going to treat you like crap, and they don't care that you're somebody else's kid. They don't care that you're underage. They will treat you like garbage. Not only that, we remember what it was like being a baby bat. And so with me, back in the day, we didn't call them elitists or gatekeepers, we called them pretentious, because that's what they were. They were stuck up, they were snobby, they were pretentious, and they would single out baby bats. Now these were very, very few and far between, because our subculture in New York, it was huge. But we had that small group of people, the pretentious ones, that would single out the young goths. They'd find us in the clubs, they'd find us in the shows, and they'd see that we were all new and we were nervous and we were kind of like just exploring, trying to figure things out, and they would come in with what I would call the Inquisition. And the Inquisition is where they would kind of come in and they would pretend to be all well-meaning, and you're like, wow, the cool older goths are trying to talk to me. It's an ambush. So they would come in and they would just start asking you questions. These questions are very leading, but then suddenly they start asking you deeper questions about goth bands. And then they want to know about sort of like more like goth facts. When did you get involved? Oh, did you ever hear this band? Oh, you never heard this band before? And then comes the shaming. So basically what they do is they back you into a corner. It's almost Socratic. And they get you to somehow admit to them that you are in fact a poser. It was horrible. You remember that feeling all too well, and the last thing we want to do is see it happen to others. But the difference is that when it happened to us, we were so self-assured, because back then there were none of these misconceptions. Because when you have things that are online, right? We didn't have social media, we didn't have the internet or anything like that. We did, but it was like minuscule. But when we did, there was no misconceptions. There was no room for doubt, because if something said it was goth, that's because it was. But nowadays, that can mean anything, because when you put something in a fishbowl, the internet, what happens is it gives everyone else that's out there the opportunity to insert their own meaning, which means that there's now doubt and there's misconceptions. So you have a lot of people that are here, especially baby bats, who are here to learn. They're confused. They're just looking to find their way. It's a lot harder for them. Now, the problem is, back in the day when this happened to us, we were self-assured. We knew who we were because, like I said, something said it was goth, it's because it was. And when you're standing there, you're very much self-assured, but you're still a little bit wary because it's your first time really integrating with the other goths, the big goths in these big spaces, and they're coming up to you face to face. There was none of this internet crap. There was none of this hiding behind a screen crap. If somebody had something to say to you, they came right to your face, and that resulted in two things: fight or flight. So you either stood your ground, you dug your heels in and said, okay, whatever, or you fled. Guess which option I chose? I was the fighty one. We look at these situations, and you have people like us, like the people that are still here, That's because we were all fighty. And when we see other people bullying you, we remember being in that position and we're like, hell no. If you're a baby bat and somebody is bullying you, or you happen to see someone bullying young goths, tag me. Please tag me. I got you. I've been alternative since 1994, and I've been involved in the goth subculture since 1995. And from my experience within the subculture, I can categorically state that no, you do not have to listen to the goth genre exclusively in order to be part of the subculture. Not only is that ridiculous, but it's incredibly limiting. Can you imagine only listening to one genre of music for like the rest of your life? No. So where this came from are a few places, and this is just a few places that I've seen it come about. And one of the places that I've seen it is by way of overzealous baby bats. So when you have a baby bat that's new to the community, once they start to get their footing, they get a little bit comfortable. Once they hit like their early 20s, I want to say like their first 5 years, they kind of have the potential, they don't all do this, but they have the potential to become like turbocharged. And what this means is that they're going to eat, sleep, breathe everything goth, and it's like impossible for them to fathom that anything exists outside goth. So the concept of seeing anybody else kind of listening to any genres outside is going to just set their alarms off, and they're going to be like, oh my god, poser. Don't worry, they eventually calm down. They all do. And the second place that I've seen it are like the alarmists that live outside the subculture, that aren't part of maybe any alternative subculture. Maybe they are part of an alternative subculture. They're definitely not part of goth, and they have this kind of concept of like gatekeeping and elitism, and they have this belief that you must only listen to goth music because it being a music-based subculture, they're like, well, you only must listen to goth music. And again, it's not true, and it spreads this misconception that scares the crap out of new goths because they're like, well, crap, I like other genres of music. I happen to like K-pop. Maybe you like emo, maybe you like metal, you like punk. There are so many other genres that people listen to. I know goths that are full-on Swifties, and they think that there's something wrong with them, but there's nothing wrong with that. So if you take a bunch of goths and you put us all in a lineup, and we're going to have like our similarities, but there's also going to be vast differences there as well. And I think like the differences are probably going to supersede what we have in common, because what we have in common is that we're goths and we're part of the community. We listen to goth music, and we might have some similar sort of temperaments. However, that's where the thing ends, because we are all each our unique individual person with so many different values. We all come from very different walks of life. We have different hobbies, different interests, our loves, our passions, likes, dislikes, career, so many different things that make us our own unique person. So to say that we all listen to this one type of music and nothing else kind of paints us like a hive mind, which is creepy, and we're not. So yes, I listen to goth music. My favorite subgenres of goth music are going to be goth rock, dark wave, and ethereal. So that being said, doesn't just mean I listen to goth music. I also love easy listening stuff like Belinda Carlisle, Steely Dan, Johnny Hates Jazz, but I love freestyle music like 80s and early 90s freestyle music. I love the stuff. Trip hop, love trip hop. Beastie Boys, I lose my mind to Beastie Boys. As goths, we don't just listen to goth music, we listen to varying other genres of music. The only difference is goth is the main genre of music that we listen to, hence our subcultural affiliation. But there's also a nuance there, and the nuance is this. There are many people who listen to goth music, and they listen to a lot of goth music. However, they want no part of the subculture. They don't consider themselves goths at all, and that's the difference. So once this person listens to goth music, they have the right to say whether or not they wish to or not be part of the subculture, and that's another nuance to it. Don't let anyone tell you that you can't listen to any other genres of music. Just because you're a goth and happen to listen to other genres of music, it does not negate your existence within the subculture. We have our own unique interests and personalities. Just be you. Pay the others no mind.